Joining me now, former National Security Advisor under Bush 43, Stephen Hadley. Stephen, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Your reaction and takeaway from the summit?
It's a good start. It was a success for the president. It was also a success for Kim Jong-un. Basic deal is Kim said he was committed to denuclearization. The president promised there'd be some security assurances that would be given down the road. Now it's over to Secretary of State Pompeo to begin negotiations. Hopefully, as the president suggested, Kim Jong-un will also unilaterally start dismantling his nuclear program. That would be a real confidence builder. So hopefully both of those things will occur in parallel.
And one of the things that Secretary Pompeo will be explaining the president's comments about the so-called war games or the military exercises conducted between the U.S. and South Korea. The White House now says that the U.S. military will continue to train with its South Korean counterparts and conduct military drills, but not the large-scale joint exercises that the president said he was stopping. Those are the, quote, war games. Your thoughts on this? Because the president tweeted about the issue this morning, and he wrote this: "We are saving a fortune by not doing war games, as long as we are negotiating in good faith," which both sides are. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in South Korea this morning, where he's about to brief the U.S. allies on the aftermath of this summit. What do you think about this, Stephen?
Well, he's got some explaining to do in Seoul, South Korea. I think the president's statement took the South Koreans by surprise. Quite frankly, it took our military a bit by surprise. President probably maybe got a little bit over his skis here. It sounds to me like what they're trying to do and what the president's trying to do is say, look, we will continue to cooperate with the South Korean military. We will continue to train together. But I think what he's saying, they will eliminate some of the most provocative elements. Provocative, remember, is the word that Kim Jong-un and the North Koreans used to describe them. The president basically, I think, is saying we will cut back some of those elements that look like we are preparing an invasion of North Korea. And I think they're going to try to walk that line. Do enough for training to keep the forces cooperating together at a high state of readiness, but and avoid something that looks like a dress rehearsal for an invasion of North Korea. I think that's the line he's going to try to walk.
So we'll be watching this in terms of what happens next, Stephen. In your view, where does this go from here?
Well, we've been down this road before. There have been 3 agreements, one under the Clinton administration, Bush administration, and a limited so-called agreement under the Obama administration that were agreements in principle, but it was difficult to reduce them to writing and concrete commitments and then get the North Koreans to stay into those commitments. That's the challenge now in terms of following up on the summit, and that's the burden that Secretary Pompeo has on his shoulders.
Let me switch to the southern border. Obviously, a Border Patrol agent recovering this morning. We've been reporting he was shot in southern Arizona near the Mexico border. Meanwhile, more than 50 suspected illegal immigrants, including children, were found inside a truck, a semi-truck in Texas, after House Speaker Paul Ryan says that his chamber will consider 2 immigration bills next week, a conservative version and a yet-to-be-written bipartisan version. Stephen, your take on the developments around immigration with regard to the national security element?
Well, it's, look, there's a national security problem at the border, and what you hope that Paul Ryan is trying to do is to get something, a bill that can address the concerns about the DACA kids that were brought to this country as minors and that are here, provide a way of regularizing their status, but at the same time enhance the thickness of the border to ensure that we have control of that border and don't have illegal immigration. It's bringing those 2 things together that I think that Speaker Ryan is trying to do, and that would be a good thing.
But for the American people, in terms of practicalities here, we're not going to really see anything significant happen before the midterm elections, right? I mean, we've got these immigration bills in the House next week, but what about the Senate?
Well, there is political pressure building. It's reflected in the debate that the House has gone through for the last 2 weeks. If the House does take some action, it'll then be over to the Senate. But I think there may be some advantage politically for both Democrats and Republicans to make a down payment on these border issues. For Democrats, deal with something with DACA, which is a Democratic issue. For Republicans, doing something that shows that we're going to be thickening the border and making it more resilient from a national security perspective. So stay tuned. But I can see a political logic for both Republicans and Democrats that doing something before the election might make sense.
Wow. All right. We'll be watching that. Stephen, great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much.
Nice to be here.
Stephen Hadley joining us there.